welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens and this is English Nerd. So today I thought I would share with you some of my favorite books of all time. And these aren't in any particular order, and I'll do my best to avoid spoilers because I want you to be able to enjoy these as much as I did the first time around. Most of these won't come as any surprise if you've been watching this channel for a while. I've brought up most of them at least more than once, just as examples or what have you. So let's just dive in without any further ado. Okay, the first book that I absolutely love and have not quite gotten over is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. As you can see, there are a bunch of little sticky notes in there because I've taught the book for 9 years now, which is kind of wild. But there's a reason that this is considered a classic. I think it's one of Charles Dickens' very best works, and for me it was better the second time I read it, because the first time it is a pretty slow beginning, so it took me a little while to get into it. Also, I was 15. But the second time around, I cared about all the characters who are so beautifully complex. They're some of the best heroes and the best villains, and they're not exactly who you expected them to be at the beginning. So that second time, man, does this pack a meaningful punch. I mean, it shows so much of what it means to love another person and how to overcome your personal challenges in both healthy and unhealthy ways, and what that can look like for the people around you. But I'm not selling this as well as I should. A Tale of Two Cities. It's also one of Dickens' shortest novels, so you really have no excuse. You need to read A Tale of Two Cities if you did not get the opportunity to do so already. So that's number one. Number two is going to surprise some people, I think. The reason that I put this one on the list is not that the writing is super spectacular, but because it changed my outlook on life, like permanently, from the time that I read it. And that is The Irresistible Revolution by Shane Claiborne. It's meant to look kind of grungy. It's not actually that I've put cardboard on it. So this is written by a guy who decided to look at Christianity from a kind of churchy perspective, something that wasn't quite as colored just by the traditions that surround Christianity, but instead looking back at the Bible itself and how Jesus lived and what he cared about. And it's not necessarily the same things that churches often care about now. And so he has formed this community and just has lived an alternative sort of life that doesn't look exactly like mine has looked. You know, I didn't just hop on board with all of his ideas or anything, but it really made me think about my own faith and the way that I live it out, and has changed some of my consumer habits, for instance, and things like that. So it's a really quick read and something that made an enormous difference in my life and my mindset, I think, for the better. And so I would recommend this one as well. Okay, number three. I had to include it because of course I did. Hamlet by William Shakespeare is magnificent. This picture, on the other hand, is not. It's kind of dumb. I'm not sure what the ghost is doing there, but in any case, I got it because it's so annotated, and I intend to take a closer look at those annotations at some point. Hamlet is the story of Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark, whose father, Ghost, comes back and tells him that he needs to avenge him for what happened with his death. And it's just a character study that is so brilliant and taps into so much of the darker parts of ourselves, I think. I just think it's glorious. So you don't need to sit down and read Hamlet, because that, I don't know if that would be the best idea, but at least get a movie version or something and familiarize yourself with the story, because I just can't get enough. I've read it, I counted up one time about how many times I've read it, and with all the times that I've taught it in high school and everything, it has to be like 30. I mean, it's this ungodly number, and I still get something new out of it every single time, which is like not something that is true of almost any other book that I've read or play that I've watched. Just there's so much there. So that's number three. Number 4 is the Harry Potter series, which is like on everybody's list, but I don't care. I would love it even if it weren't popular, because the world is so involved and the characters are so likable and so interesting, and the writing is so quick-paced, and there are mysteries in all of them that you need to figure out, so you're looking for clues along the way. I just think it's so well crafted, and by the time I got to the final book, I was just so unbelievably hooked that I had to know how everything was going to turn out, and I think that she pulled off a really beautifully satisfying ending, even more so than the movies did. Some of their changes I do not think did the book justice quite in the same way. You get more of an ensemble feel in the books as well, as opposed to the movies. You get to know some of these minor Gryffindor characters and Slytherin characters, and it's just so much fun and still deals with really tough topics in a way that is more palatable to younger readers. So I just love this. I need to reread these at some point. It just, takes a little while because I'm not that fast of a reader. Okay, and the next on my list would be Crime and Punishment. I have a few copies of this, but this is my prettiest copy, so I'm bringing this one out. I mean, look at it. Look how beautiful it is. It has the golden pages. So Crime and Punishment is the story of Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, who is a student, or he was a student in St. Petersburg, Russia, and he has been kind of infected by these nihilistic ideas about the common, like what you're able to do for the common good, let's just say that. So this is quite a, well, it's violent in parts, for sure, but this is definitely a psychological thriller, but not in the way that you normally see. You are so ingrained in his mind as he does this unspeakable crime at the beginning and then suffers the consequences afterwards that it is difficult to separate yourself from him, even if you, whether or not you like him as a character. There's part of you that identifies with him as a character, which is meant to make you uncomfortable and face the darker parts of yourself, but at the same time show that there might be hope even for the darkest person. I just have been so immensely impacted by this book. It's difficult to describe how much. So yes, Crime and Punishment. Pacing also is surprisingly good. It looks like it's going to be boring because it has a boring title. Like, I don't know why. Like, A Tale of Two Cities, Crime and Punishment, these titles are so boring. Why can't they make them more interesting? So it sounds like it's not going to be cool, but it is so cool. Just trust me. Okay, the last one. The last one deserves to be the last one, even though I didn't put these in any particular order, and that is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the first copy that I read, so it's very near and dear to my heart, even though it's not the nicest copy that I own now, because yes, I own several copies now because I love them so much. Everything from the beautiful to the hideous. In fact, let me just show you real fast. Wasn't planning to do this, but here is quite a nice copy. I like it because it's a great book with red and black letters, and there's a part in the story when Frodo and Sam are talking about whether anybody will remember them and if they'll be read out of a book, a great big book with red and black letters, and I have a great big book with red and black letters. And then I've been slowly collecting the most hideous copies of Lord of the Rings that exist in this world. And in one of my other videos, the worst cover video, I have the very worst one, which is Two Towers. But this is the Fellowship of the Ring, which is also terrible because Frodo looks like a small mental patient in the background. Delightful and weird. But anyway, Lord of the Rings is one of my all-time favorites because it demonstrates for me couple of things. It demonstrates what is worth dying for and that there are things worth dying for. It shows me what friendship looks like. The assumption, especially among the hobbits, but really among all the good characters, is that you are loyal really even to death, even through the most difficult situations. And that just has been so impactful to me in my life. And it's even given me the kind of courage to think, okay, well, if these characters can endure this, then I can finish my workout or whatever, which I know sounds dorky, but I also know that you know what I'm talking about if you are a big fan of reading and you've been impacted by books. So I haven't done any of these justice, but I would so strongly recommend that you read all of these if you have not had the opportunity to do so. There are lots of other books that I could have put on this list and that I considered putting on this list, but then it would just become too long of a video. So if you want to know any of my other favorites, do let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you like it, share your own favorites, those things that you feel you could just not live without. And I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next Monday.